Exactly.
Hey, let's get to the VMix line now. NFL draft analyst at Fantasy
Our
Pros, Lions Wire as well. Our good friend, the very great, the very knowledgeable, the one, the only, Russell Brown. How you doing, my friend? What's going on? 24 hours away, essentially.
I feel like a kid on Christmas Eve right now. One more sleep to go. Can't wait to get going. Appreciate you guys bringing me on. It's always fun.
Russ, why are you so excited? Like, I was just talking about the excitement in Detroit, and I get it, but why are you particularly so excited about tomorrow for the Detroit Lions?
I mean, Braylon, I don't know. I go back to when I was a kid watching you getting drafted, watching you tear it up at Michigan. It's just like, it's just what it's about, man. It's just been something that's always been so intriguing to me as a kid, and to be able to do this professionally, it's pretty wild. And like if I would have told myself 9-year-old me that 21 years from now, 22 years from now, you'd be sitting here talking to guys like yourself and Ryan and going across the country and being able to do this, like I would have been like, no way. And it's just what it's. I mean, you put in all the work, and here we are. I mean, I remember sitting in the stands at the Senior Bowl watching practice, talking with you guys, and here we are a few months later, and it's all that hard work. It's finally here. We're going to see what's going to happen.
Hey, Russell, can I play a
it.
game with you? I did this with the guys earlier, and I think this would be fun, where I did a true or false game with the guys. I'm going to ask you the same exact questions, and if you want to expound upon it, you can. But true or false, I'm going to make a statement about the NFL draft. You tell me whether that statement is true or false. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Statement 1. There will be 3 quarterbacks off the board by the time the Lions pick at 6. 3 or more quarterbacks off the board by the time the Lions pick at 6. Is that true or false?
That is false.
Ooh.
Wow.
All right.
Do
How
you want
many
me to go?
do you think?
Do you want me to go in detail?
Yeah,
Or-
you can. You can
Quickly.
if you got a quick
Give us
nugget about it.
quick nugget.
Quick nugget.
Yeah, so ultimately, I think there's going to be 2 quarterbacks in the top 10. I don't think we're going to see 3. I think, the interesting names will be C.J. Stroud, Will Levis, and Anthony Richardson. 2 of the 3 are going to fall. I just don't know where. But, I don't see where 2 fit in the top 5.
Question number 2. Tyree Wilson
That was
will be
also my answer, by the way.
It is. Braylon is over here back going like, yeah.
And I'm waving you off.
That's my guy.
Question number 2. Tyree Wilson will be the first defensive player drafted.
False. I believe it'll be Will Anderson going 2. And, I mean, again, I've heard a lot of links to Tyree. It makes sense. You think back to last year, Trayvon Walker went 1. We thought Hutch was going to be off the board, but it ends up being that type of thing. So it could happen, but I just think Will Anderson's the best player in the draft, and I think he's very much overlooked because of whatever reason. So I think he makes a lot of sense for the Houston Texans there too.
All right, Russell. The third question. The Lions will take 2 defensive players with their 2 first-round picks. True or false?
Man,
good questions, huh? I'll pat myself on the back.
Yeah, that's a good one. I'm gonna say false. I think we could see. Call me crazy, fellas. I think we could see a scenario where potentially Will Anderson, Devin Witherspoon, and Jalen Carter are all off the board, and I could see them playing it safe at 6 and maybe go with Peter Skoronski. I could also see a scenario where obviously one of those guys is available. They take that defensive player at 6, and then they end up going with an offensive lineman at 18, or maybe a move down, and maybe they're able to land a receiver if they want. So I would love to see 2 defensive players. I think offense and then defense is the direction that they go, or vice versa.
All right, this is my last true or false question, then we'll get the fellas involved.
Go ahead,
keep
brother.
it going.
I'm
This is
involved.
There will be 1 or more trades in the top 10 of the first round. True or false?
Man, that's a tough one. I'm going to say true, just because the trend has been that there wasn't any last year. There was 1 the year before that. There was none the year before that one, and then there was another one. We've only seen 2 in the top 10 over the last 4 years. So I'm going to say that's true. There will be 1. And I could see it being either Philadelphia moving up or Philadelphia moving back. And I could also see it being a situation where maybe even our Detroit Lions move back from 6 with maybe a team like Tennessee if they want to jump up for a quarterback, if that's the case.
How about Arizona?
Maz, I don't know. I could see them moving back. I mean, it makes sense for them, but it's so hard to get that deal done. And Are they really going to take a jump from 3 to 10 or 11? There's a lot of draft capital that a team like Tennessee, they've only got 6 picks. Philly, they've only got 6 picks in this draft. I mean, sure, they could give up future assets for next year, but I struggle with that one a lot.
All right, final question. I lied. Last question of the true or false. C.J. Stroud will be the 4th quarterback taken. C.J. Stroud will be the 4th quarterback taken. True or false?
That's false. I think he's either the 2nd or 3rd. I think he's either the guy at 4, or I think he ends up, if he does slip a little bit, I think it could be maybe at 7 to Las Vegas. I have a hard time believing he makes it past Las Vegas.
Fair enough. What is your sense on the where the Lions go here? I mean, the thought is Russell, and we are talking to Russell Brown, NFL draft analyst, Fantasy Pros. You could follow him on Twitter at Russ NFL Draft. Because I'm sitting here and I'm thinking to myself, man, Will Anderson, Jalen Carter, to me the 2 preeminent players in this draft. What if those guys are gone? I mean, where are you going? And is it simple to just take one of the corners there? Is that boring? Is that the right thing to do? What is your sense on the eve of the draft, who this team selects at 6?
I mean, I would be pretty stunned if they ended up going with Jalen Carter. I'll be honest. I mean, it's possible, but I just have a hard time believing it. I think ultimately, we see something along the lines of Devin Witherspoon if he's there. Again, I've heard a lot of things Monday into Tuesday about the Arizona Cardinals really liking him, and when you put it together, he makes a lot of sense at 3. When you look at their roster, their starting corners are god awful. They got rid of Byron Murphy. Marco Wilson, one of their corners, he gave up 96 receptions, 1,100 yards, and 11 touchdowns in 2 seasons. That's not good by any means. So I think that he's a liability, and they could look to upgrade there, and Witherspoon does it. So with the Lions, though, I mean, I think they could either go Witherspoon or Gonzalez, and then ultimately I think the safe pick is Peter Skoronski.
Russell, talk to me about the wide receiver position. Everybody's making a lot about the wide receiver position for the Detroit Lions because of what's going on with Jameson Williams, the 6-game suspension. That probably is looking like 6 and not going to be appealed to 3. So do the Detroit Lions, do they make any moves in the draft? And if they do, is it because of Jameson Williams, or is it because they were already going to do so?
Yeah, I think I don't think they're going to alter their board too much. I mean, again, I know we had the conversation of the possibility of a receiver at 18. If they really like a guy, they're going to take that guy regardless of what happened to J-Mo. And I mean, ultimately, I think, somewhere on day 2, they might target a receiver, maybe a Jonathan Mingo out of Ole Miss, maybe Cedric Tillman out of Tennessee. I know that they've done some research on Tillman quite a bit, and another player that they met with was Jaden Reed out of Michigan State. So I think you can kind of connect a couple of those different players, and if they ended up waiting until day 3, I mean maybe a Trey Palmer, maybe a Parker Washington, one of those Big Ten receivers that suffered from some bad quarterback play and ultimately might do a little bit of a better job in our system and our scheme with Jared Goff under center. So I don't see them reaching for a receiver. I don't think it's a great receiver draft. I think there's some talent, obviously, in this draft, but ultimately there's a lot of slot receivers. There's no alpha in this draft. There's no Jamar Chase or CeeDee Lamb or Justin Jefferson. So I think ultimately, are you going to really reach for a slot receiver when you kind of got that guy already with St. Brown?
What would you consider Keenan Allen? Was Keenan Allen a 1 to you, or is Keenan Allen a damn good 2 for you?
Yeah, he's interesting. I think he would be a damn good 2. I think obviously the situation changes a little bit, and there were times last year he carried that offense on his back because Mike Williams was hurt. But I think he's a darn good 2, and I think that's what it boils down to is he's a guy that if he's healthy, he can really play, and when he's not healthy, we obviously see what happens. But I think there's going to be a couple of guys that maybe fall into that line of, they're going to be darn good 2s. Jordan Addison could be one. I think Zay Flowers could be one. And ultimately, I think Jackson Smith-Njigba is also going to be a darn good 2.
That's why I asked that question, because I think Jackson Smith-Njigba is a Keenan Allen type player, man.
Yeah.
Hey, Russ, how high should Bijan Robinson be drafted? Who's going to get him?
I really think he's a top 10 pick. I think he's one of the 2 or 3 best, 2 or 3 best players in this draft. I think he's, positional value is it's not really a thing for me. If you're a football player, you can run the football. I can use you in a 4 to 5, 6 year span. You're a good football player. You fit on my team. That's how I view it. I know the NFL doesn't view it that way because it's about money and business and contracts. But I think when you look at Bijan, Atlanta makes a ton of sense at 8. And I really like the idea of Philly. They're at 10. I know there's been signs that they're not going to take him, but he's met with them. He talked highly of them yesterday on NFL Network. So I think he's interesting. I think he makes sense. I'm curious about Chicago at 9. I do wonder, the pairing of Justin Fields and that backfield. That would be fun. I mean, they took a running back out of Texas back in 2005 named Cedric Benson.
There you
go. Could they go again
Rest
here?
in peace.
Could they go again with Bijan? So I don't know. We'll kind of see what happens. But I think he's a top 10 player, and I'd be a little surprised if he fell out.
Don't
so
jinx it.
If the big guys are gone when the Lions pick, and I mean Will Anderson, Jalen Carter, a couple quarterbacks, if they're gone, what's the harm of taking Bijan Robinson at 6?
Oh, there's not. I'm fine with it. I'm perfectly fine with it. I was never on board with the DeAndre Swift pick, so the fan in me I'm cool with it. And I think schematically he fits what they're looking for as far as the backfield. I mean, sure, they brought in David Montgomery, but that's a 3-year deal. Who's to say he doesn't regress at all in this offense or he doesn't stay healthy in 2 years? And again, 3-year deals or 2-year deals because you can get out of those deals fairly easy. So I think it's an interesting spot to be in, and again, I think there's a chance he could be the pick. I mean, just simply because Brad Holmes has not dismissed it. He really stood up for the fact that the Rams took Todd Gurley, and I just find that interesting. I find that odd, and I think if there's a chance that you're going to, not take a running back or the conversation of the running back, you would dismiss it and say, hey, it's a deep class. We like a lot of these guys, but he likes Bijan and he justified Gurley, and I think he could justify taking Robinson at 6.
Great stuff there, Russ. I can't let you get out of here without asking you a quarterback question. When and if, or when do they at all take a quarterback, the Detroit Lions? Do they take a quarterback at all in this draft? If so, when?
2028.
I think they take. Yeah, that's when my son graduates high school. That's great.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah, no, I think they take one on, somewhere in this draft. I would be really intrigued with like Dorian Thompson-Robinson out of UCLA. He's kind of my favorite. He's my favorite mid-round guy. I think when you look at what, Jalen Hurts was able to do, I think there's some, resemblance of his game in a poor man's way. He can really sling it. He's got some good velocity and mobility. But a lot of signs were connected to Hendon Hooker out of the Senior Bowl. They really liked him. A lot of teams obviously like him. Is there a chance that they take him at 18? I guess, but I think they're going to take one. It's just a matter of who and really when. And I think it's probably somewhere on the late portion of day 2 or somewhere on day 3.
Great stuff. Russell Brown, we cannot thank you enough.
Thanks, Russ.
We encourage everybody to hit the follow button at Russ NFL Draft. Follow him there, NFL Draft Analyst at Fantasy Pros, and, of course, Lions Wire as well. Hit his Twitter up. Let's get him to 10,000 followers maybe by the end of this.
That'd be
Let's
awesome.
go 800 people. Let's go right
let's
now.
get it
Let's
cracking.
go. Let's go. Let's get to 10K.
You know what time it is.
Let's get to 10K
Appreciate
right
you,
now.
Russ.
All right, Russ, thanks so much. So happy for you and all your success, and
definitely.
thanks for doing what you're doing for us here on our show. We appreciate it, buddy.
Absolutely.
Russ, have a good one, buddy.
You
See you,
got
buddy.
it.